it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the One Stop Podcast. We got a whole bunch of NBA news that got popped off today, also including last night's all-time historic performance by Kevin Durant, and we're going to lead off the show with that. Kevin Durant went for 49 points, 17 rebounds, I want to say 10 assists, an all-time great performance when his back was against the wall, and no one predicted him to post numbers like this. So what do you guys situate first thoughts on this?
He's really good. I mean, what else can you say? Like you said, Jesse, I was wondering before the game what they were going to do when Durant was out, what the Bucks were going to do. When he was sitting, he never sat, played all 48 minutes. And, I mean, it worked out, I think, even more than how great a performance it was for Durant and the Nets. It was a huge missed opportunity for the Bucks. This was their chance to really, turn the series. Harden played 45 minutes, 5 points. He was a decoy out there. He didn't do anything. It was all Harden. It was it was all Durant. Durant and Jeff Green had the majority of the points, so it was a big missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it. Kevin Durant, all-time historic performance. It's not often we get to see the scoring numbers we've seen, but the triple-double and the manner he did it in was just so impressive. Getting timely buckets, obviously the three at the end, a clutch defensive play at the end. Durant was everywhere, so great performance from him. As always, people were overreacting and now calling him the best player in the world because people just seem to do that after one game. But props to Kevin Durant, man. He really came out and, like you said, back against the wall. That's a legacy booster for him right there. This is going to be one of the games we talk about when we look back on the career of Kevin Durant, and all-time performance from him, man.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. This was the first time in a long time that Kevin Durant was in this situation where he didn't have help or another superstar beside him. Because the last time he was in this situation was when Pat Beverly tore Russell Westbrook's meniscus in the first round in that playoff series with Oklahoma City Thunder against the Houston Rockets. So me personally, I didn't think he was going to be able to do this, put up numbers like LeBron, but he proved me wrong. And that's just greatness to Kevin Durant because the dude's a 3-level scorer. He's a great rim protector. I didn't see this coming at all, but I'm glad I got to see it. And what impressed me the most about it was the efficiency. I think he only took 23 shots. And just think about that. Most people, it takes probably 30, 40 shots to get to 50 points. This guy only took half the shots of points he made. So this dude was just on another level. It's just Kevin Durant. But we're gonna also. So I want to touch on what you just said about him being the best player in the world. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
No chance. No way.
There's a chance. I mean, I don't know. I guess it would still be LeBron. I mean, Jokic is the MVP, but I don't know if you would say he's the best in the world. I guess it would be LeBron still then.
My whole thing is if you can say there's a difference between, he's the best player right now in general or right now. If you want to say right now, he's performing the best, because I mean, in this playoffs, he's performed better than LeBron. So if you want to go off of that, then yeah, you can say right now he's playing like the best player in the NBA. But we can't just write LeBron off after his first round exit ever. We can't. It's the first time we've seen it, and I he made a whole big deal about changing his number to 6. So we'll see. We'll see if Braun's coming back next year with vengeance to solidify that title. But I don't know. I'm not taking anything away from Kevin Durant. He's 2 for me. I think he's 2 for most people. That's where he stands in the NBA right now, and he's been that way for a very long time. But I don't think you can call him number 1 yet until we see LeBron fall down or fall off that cliff that people are waiting for him to fall off of. I'm just not ready to do it yet.
For me personally, I don't know. I'm biased, so I always loved scorers. I mean, I had the great Kobe Bryant in my whole childhood and my NBA experience. So I've always been biased towards scorers and killers. LeBron, the thing is, with my disappointment with him, and I have him as a Laker now, but what I've seen like throughout his whole career, besides the Miami years, was he likes to what's that word? He settles a lot. Instead of like going at it for him, like for the kill, he likes to make the right play, which I do understand from a basketball perspective. But there are certain points where you have to go and get that bucket, get the kill shot. And that's the type of thing that Kevin Durant does. Once he sees blood, he's like a shark in the water. He'll go for it. The Slim Reaper will always come up on top when the situation's magnitude always at the highest. So I've always been biased with that. If you need a bucket with the last 2 minutes, you're gonna go with Kevin Durant, especially in a close game, rather than LeBron James.
The thing with Durant that's so dangerous about him, I feel like he could get 50 every night, like if he really wanted to, because he just pulls up to the elbow and just shoots over anyone. He's 7 foot, super long. He just scores all the time. So I think he could be the best if he if he did this every game, which I think he can, but I don't think it's needed all the time because he's always been on teams with a lot of superstars. So, but we may see it again because they said Kyrie's out the next game. Harden will play, but I mean, Harden just looked like a kid out there.
Yeah, Harden struggled, man. What was it? 1 for 10, right?
1 for 10.
And that little and one push shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he was 0 for 8 from 3. Obviously, that hamstring is.
You could tell from the beginning it was bothering him.
Yeah,
you could tell right away.
Yeah, he was not going downhill at all.
Yeah, he wasn't getting his movements. He wasn't driving to the basket. He just didn't look comfortable at all. If you really noticed, he didn't look comfortable at all. I was wondering why they had him out there for as long as they did when he wasn't really producing as much. But that just goes to, I think that was just part of a decoy just to get because whether he was hurt or not, you still have to respect James Harden.
Yeah. Right. And the crazy thing was he played 46 minutes. 46 minutes with that hamstring injury. That's risky.
He's gonna be tight.
Yeah.
That's his legs tight.
Probably getting treatment as we speak.
Yeah. Wouldn't doubt it.
Speaking on James Harden's performance, he came up with the biggest play of the game, in my opinion, when he guarded Giannis in the post and called off the double team. Now, people are gonna say that Giannis settled for that shot, which I think he did. But we have to give credit to Harden. Only on one leg, he took the challenge to take on the former two-time MVP in the post in a late game. So, what do you guys think about that? About Giannis' mentality, or Harden stepping up in a big time situation like that?
I think it goes both ways. I think starting with Harden, you can bag on his defense all the time where he doesn't try and stuff, but he was always good when he got switched on big guys and he was getting posted up. He was always sturdy. He doesn't really let anyone back him down. So that I understand. But like we were talking in our group chat yesterday, Giannis, I don't know what he's doing fading away there. He does it way too much. Like, he's bigger than everyone, longer than everyone. Just drive and kick. That's all you have to do. You have shooters around you. So it was disappointing from Giannis, but I wasn't surprised that Harden could hold him there.
Yeah, the bottom line is the mentality needs to be to stop shooting the ball for Giannis. He needs to stop taking these jump shots. He needs to use his size and get inside. I know, like you said, James Harden, I don't think he gets enough credit for his post defense. He can really match up against some of those bigs, poke the ball out, and he makes it tough for them. So I'm not saying it would have been easy for Giannis, but in that matchup, you've got to think, you're the bigger guy. You're the stronger guy. Go up strong. Try and get a foul. I know he's not a great free throw shooter, but I would take that over that fadeaway mid-range that he likes to settle for so often. In that situation, go to your bread and butter, man. I don't know what the mentality was either. It was confusing, but you said, I mean, Harden's defense there, it's still Giannis Antetokounmpo, so big play by him, obviously, but bottom line is he's got to stop settling. He just has to.
There was a video I saw yesterday. It was like kind of a joke video, but it made sense, and it was talking about Giannis and Ben Simmons. It said Ben Simmons, he can't shoot, but he knows he can't shoot, so he doesn't shoot. Giannis can't shoot. He knows he can't shoot, but he shoots. and it was just comparing them. And like watching the game, it makes sense. Like I think it said he was like 5 for 30 from threes in the playoffs. He should not be taking 30 threes if he's not going to make at least like 10.
I agree. Yeah. I think, well, with that whole thing, I think that's a mentality thing. He's showing that he's not scared to take that shot. Whereas Ben Simmons, like, you can play off both of them, is what I'm saying. What I'm saying in the end is you can play off both of them because both of them have a lack of a shot. But Giannis has shown that he's not afraid to take that shot, even if it's a horrible situation or if it's a shot that's not needed. Whereas Ben Simmons is, here's a dribble handoff, take it from me, or here's a post touch. But another thing I want to touch on is another mistake Giannis made was the little dump off pass that Chris Middleton made to him that would have given him the lead, where he just bobbled it, and the Brooklyn Nets just Kevin Durant picked it up and then got the free throws, and that's how he got the 49 points. When do you guys think that it's enough is enough for Giannis? Like, where he's like, okay, where we're gonna start putting him on that pedestal. If we want to put him on that pedestal, like, now we have to start, like, not judge him but criticize him more. Or when are we gonna start saying that he's not a top 5 player, he's not a top level superstar? When do you think those talks are gonna start coming in? Because the last 3 playoffs, he hasn't been doing his thing like he has in the regular season. So what do you guys take on that?
I think it's now. You got to start now. I mean, he's supposed to be the guy, and he was not the guy. I mean, he's, like we talked about Durant, he's a 3-level scorer. Giannis is not, but he knows how to play to his strengths, but he doesn't still sometimes. And I mean, I understand you bobble a pass every now and then, but you can't be doing that in the final play. You got to secure it. So I mean, I think he should be judged now. I don't think he's top 5 player right now. So
I wouldn't put him in top 5 either. I think you can come up with 5 players. I think LeBron is still better. You've still got KD. Kawhi has to be in there, no question. Curry.
Steph. Yeah.
Curry, and then, I'm blanking here.
Jokic.
Honestly, Jokic, yeah. You can put Jokic.
I got a lot of players you could take.
There's a lot. You could put a lot of players in there.
You could put Dame. You could put Luka even.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of players.
It's not because he lacks the skill to be top 5. It's certainly not that. And it's honestly not even because he has horrible performances or he's choking. Like, from a number standpoint, he had a great game. But in those pivotal moments, if he wants to be a top 5 guy, the rest of those guys on that list, they've shown they come through when it matters. Mm-hmm. So that's the step he's got to take. If he wants to be in that top 5 discussion, it's not just about the numbers anymore. It's about the eye test now. It's about coming through in those moments. What doesn't show up on the stat sheet. That's where he's got to be.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. My last take on this is the Milwaukee Bucks had their shot. Whether they still have a shot, I'm not sure. But they got one last home game. It's do or die from here on out. What's it called? One last what was I gonna say?
Bucks in 7.
Jeff Green was a big time performer. I had Mike James coming up big, but Jeff Green showed out. They just needed one person to come through for Kevin Durant, and thankfully Jeff Green came through for him. But Drew Holiday still hasn't really had that big time performance. Chris Middleton's on and off. PJ Tucker is having his moments. Brook Lopez as well. I want to see Brook Lopez more in the post, because I think that's where they went wrong, because they had a 17-point lead and they just kept firing 3 after 3 after 3. And I think that's when they should have slowed the game down, get Giannis or get Brook Lopez in the post, get those paint touches, slow the game down, because that's where the Nets went off. Those fast break points after getting stop after stop, they were drilling 3 after 3 after 3. But that's my final take, and we're gonna go to the Clippers and the Jazz. So today is news that Kawhi Leonard is out indefinitely with the ACL sprain, or he injured his ACL. How do you think it's gonna affect the rest of the series?
It's over.
Yeah,
it's over. It has to be. Kawhi's the only thing holding the. I mean, maybe we'll see. I think we'll see better Paul George games because he's going to have the ball a lot. He's going to be a lot of high volume shots, hopefully high volume makes, but I think it's over. They said they fear that Kawhi tore his ACL. So, I mean, he's out. I think it's done. Maybe Clippers might surprise him at home one game, but it's over.
I think I've said it the last 2 episodes, and I'm going to keep saying it. Respectfully, it is over. They're done. The Clippers, there's just no way they can compete without Kawhi Leonard because the Jazz are the number 1 seed for a reason. And you know what? Honestly, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard have showed up these past 2 games. They've both played well. They had some contributions from Marcus Morris in Game 4. I mean, he started off hot. But I don't know how you win the game without your number 1 player, your leader there. Paul George is going to have to go for like, what are we thinking? 50, 60 maybe. It's going to have to be an all-time historic performance from playoff P if they have any chance of winning it. It's going to have to be at least 50. So can he do it? He can, but will he? I don't know. I wouldn't count on it, and I'm going Jazz in 6 at this point. No Kawhi, no chance.
I think that this is just like Kevin Durant had yesterday. This is a legacy game for Paul George. This is gonna be the time. This is where all the talk Paul George said, where y'all are gonna know who I am now. Like, you remember when he said that on the All Smoke podcast?
Yeah.
This is his moment. If Paul George wants to get rid of all that pandemic P, playoff P, all that stuff off his back, this is the game. Win or lose, if Paul George does ball out and does his thing, gets 40 to 50 points, get at least a 40, 50 point triple double, or at least makes some type of impact, and lock down Donovan Mitchell on the other side of the end, then I think this is gonna gain some confidence, and it's gonna be a what if scenario if they were to lose the series. What if Kawhi wasn't hurt? Could the Clippers have done it because Paul George came up big when they needed him to?
The thing for me about that, I think Paul George has to play good and they have to win, because he was an MVP candidate at the beginning of the year. He was MVP, third in MVP a couple of years ago, so he should be able to carry a team. Now, I'm not saying they're gonna win, but if he wants his legacy to like a win, might like give him a clean slate. If he really goes like a 40-point triple, like a KD game, it might clean a slate. But I think they have to win.
Yeah. It's win or bust, not just for the Clippers, but for Paul George too. Would you guys say that this is the biggest game of his career? Could you argue that? Because I know he's been to an Eastern Conference Finals before, but whenever he played LeBron, I don't think it was close too often. Could you argue this is the biggest game?
You could argue Game 7 and that 2014. I want to say it was 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That could argue, but the thing is, he had a full, healthy Indiana team with him. This time, he has no superstar, or at least all-star next to him. Mm-hmm. So I think there's more at stake. I think it's more high reward and low risk compared to that. That's what I would say. Because coming to this game, you're not expecting him to win.
They're playing with, like, they say it's like borrowed money now, because like no one's expecting them to win, so they can just kind of. That's when they're most dangerous. But I mean, without Kawhi, it's still risky. But they have nothing to lose now. They're expected to lose, so I think, like Jesse said, it's like this has higher reward, but there's like no risk.
All
right. We got the next game tonight, Hawks and 76ers. It looks like a missed opportunity for the Sixers last game. They let Atlanta take the win. I was pretty confident the Sixers were going to win. I still think they're going to Cancun with the Clippers. But what do you guys think about tonight's game and last game?
Hey, we went off on Giannis a little bit earlier. We need to go off on Joel Embiid for what he did in the second half of that game. Unacceptable. He didn't make a field goal, All of his points were free throws. Right? And I think his first points of the entire second half came with 3 minutes left in the fourth on a free throw. Like that just can't happen. If Joel Embiid makes even half of those shots, the game's over. He didn't even have to be the superstar of the second half. He just had to make the right plays and get a few buckets. And Atlanta couldn't have crawled back into that game. They were up big, and Atlanta was still able to come back. So I think you have to blame Joel Embiid for that one, definitely. He choked pretty bad. And he's got to respond better. He's got to play like the guy we've been talking about, the guy that nobody on the Hawks can stop. That's what he's got to do.
Yeah, we need MVP Embiid out there. But another name that sticks out is Ben Simmons. When's Ben Simmons finally going to acclimate himself in this series? Because we've seen him. He's a fast break player. We know this. He has no offensive type of game except being a playmaker. But when's it going to be the time when Ben Simmons says, "Okay, I see Embiid struggling. Let me turn it on now. Let me go into those coast to coast offense. Let me set everyone up. Let me get open opportunities." When's Ben Simmons going to finally do that? Because he almost had a triple double, but it was more like an empty triple double because he wasn't really efficient with it. Yeah, he got the 8 assists and he's setting his teammates up, but he only had like around 10 points, I want to say. That's just unacceptable, especially when you see your other superstars struggling. That's when you got to kick in the high gear, especially now in the playoffs.
The thing about Joel Embiid, he admitted how bad he was, which I like. I like when they take accountability for it, and he kind of recognized that he has to do better, which I think sometimes players don't like doing. So I expect him to play better. I don't really expect much from Ben Simmons other than like he's gonna do his best against Trae Young. He did pretty good. I think on the last one we said 15 to 25 points for Trae Young. He had 25, so we got it right still. But I think next game Joel Embiid's gonna have a big one. It's back in Philly. He's got the crowd behind him. I'd expect a big game.
Yeah, that's what has to happen. And Jesse, you have to give you your props, man. Your hot take was pretty much right there. You were an assist away and you got the Trae Young part right.
He struggled. He honestly did have I would say a bad game, but
yeah, so
he made it up for it.
You were an assist away from being completely right on your hot take. Well done. You did your thing right there. Got to give credit where credit's due. But yeah, Embiid's got to come through, bottom line.
I want to speak on one more player who's also been a big help for the Sixers, Seth Curry. The other Curry has been lighting it up. Mm-hmm. He's been taking the place of Danny Green. He's been making up for Danny Green's absence, honestly. Mm-hmm. He's another one we got to keep our eye on. Not Halliburton. What's it? Thibault. I keep getting those two mixed up. Another name we got to keep an eye on. He needs to have a big performance as well as Tobias Harris. Because besides Embiid, he's another one who could set his own offense. He can get his own shot. He could also play make. He could put the ball on the floor. That's someone who I expect to have another big game. He needs to have a big game. I'm expecting him to have a big game as well. Yeah. But another headline that hit today was Chris Paul is in COVID protocol. This is like huge for the Suns going forward because thankfully they already won their matchup with the Denver Nuggets and they're just waiting on the winner of the Jazz and the Clippers. They're hoping that game goes to 7 games. I think that would probably end around next week, Tuesday. So What do you guys think about that? About the Suns going forward with Chris Paul now in COVID protocol?
Well, I mean, if he's out, it's a different team. Like
completely different.
Yeah, it's completely different. The only thing I'm confused about, how come he's out, but then when LeBron, didn't he break the COVID protocols and then he was able to play?
Well, LeBron was, what they said is he was in an outside area, but I don't know I think he actually got COVID. I think Chris Paul actually got COVID.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. So that's why
really? Chris Paul, I did not know that. I thought he was exposed to someone with COVID. That's huge.
Let's see.
Yeah, we'll have to check.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think he either got COVID or he was in contact with someone who got COVID.
I think that's what it was, but assuming he did, and obviously we pray and hope that he didn't, but assuming he did contract COVID, I don't think that the Suns realistically would have a chance against. Well, we're expecting the Jazz now, with the way that that series is playing out. We're expecting the Jazz, and if the Jazz do come out, I don't think they have a chance without their leader.
It says DraftKings says he tested positive, but everyone else has not confirmed it.
Oh my gosh! All right. Well, if he does test positive, that's 2 weeks. So when would he be able to come back? Around game 4 or 5? If this one goes to 7,
probably like 4.
Yeah.
Oh
3, 4, maybe. I don't know because I guess you're missing your superstar and your leader in Chris Paul, but Cameron Payne has shown that he can play the position, especially when he went up against the Lakers, the defending champs. He showed he wasn't scared. He was fearless, relentless when he attacked the basket. His shots looking pretty good. He's a scrappy defender. So yes, they're gonna miss Chris Paul, but are they really gonna miss like that? Are they gonna drop off that much? Because I expect Booker to take on a bigger load, and Booker has shown that he is able to take that bigger load, as well as Ayton.
Yeah. The only thing is they'll just be a completely different looking Suns. I think they'll still be good. I mean, they played without Chris Paul and they look good. They did it against the Lakers and they played pretty well when he had a shoulder injury. I'd expect them to still win a game if Chris Paul is out, but they're just a starkly worse team without him, I think.
Yeah, the Chris Paul effect is real, and we've seen that everywhere he's gone. So honestly, I don't know how much they can compete with the Jazz. That's just what I think personally. I don't know, because I think with those two, if you have Chris Paul and if you have them going up against a healthy Jazz team, because you have to keep in mind too, Mike Conley, who was actually expected to play Game 4, didn't end up suiting up. So
he's out tonight too.
No, he's out tonight too. So assuming Conley gets back before next series, which I do think he will, probably, because he almost did for Game 4. So assuming he does, that's a big thing too. I mean, Conley's a great defensive guard, and then you've got Mitchell, who doesn't have to really worry about that. He can score. Who's picking up Mitchell? That's the question.
I think if it goes to that, Mitchell and Booker would cancel each other out. So we're okay with that.
You think so?
I think they would guard each other probably. Or Michael Bridges would probably guard Booker.
I put Mikal Bridges on Booker.
Yeah. I think DeAndre Ayton will have bigger games. I think they won't do as much like high pick and rolls, but I think he'll get it a lot in the post.
Yeah. Well, bottom line is they need CP3. I don't think they can win that series without Chris Paul, honestly. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jazz beat them convincingly. It could honestly be a gentleman's sweep without Chris Paul. And that's not a discredit to Booker and Ayton and those guys, but CP3 adds another level to your team. So they're gonna need him back, and hopefully he didn't test positive, because it's been a rough go for this man, Chris Paul. Whenever it gets to around this time, NBA Finals, Conference Finals area, he's just something happens to him, man. He's cursed.
He's allergic to the finals.
He really is. He is the physical embodiment of the Clippers. Their franchise and Chris Paul, their souls are connected. I don't know.
Just to touch in on what you said about Chris Paul is like it gives them another level. I think if they do face off with the Jazz or the Clippers, honestly, the experience factor is finally gonna play a factor in it. The experience is gonna play a factor in it, because the Suns are still a relatively young team. It's majority of them their first time in the playoffs, so I think that's gonna hurt them in the end. But who knows? When you got a scorer like Booker, anything's possible. We got other news. LaMelo Ball wins Rookie of the Year. Me personally, I didn't see this coming just because he missed so many games with the wrist injury. Originally, I had him winning Rookie of the Year, but once he went down with the wrist, I thought Anthony Edwards did enough for him, like, to fill that gap and then keep it going forward. So Anthony Edwards was my original choice. What do you guys think about that? I'm not upset with the pick, but I personally had Anthony Edwards.
I agree. it should have been Edwards because he played all the games and he played well at the end. But it was a toss-up between the two. You can't really be mad at either one. So congrats to LaMelo.
It was a flip-flop for me. I mean, recency bias is such a dangerous thing for NBA fans, and so I'm glad, like, as you know, people who watch the NBA, that we're able to take that stuff into account and not let it completely dictate who we want to win the awards. But in this case, I don't really know if you could call it recency bias, because I mean, Anthony Edwards did step up towards the end, and he stepped up very well. He had multiple 40-point games towards the end of the year, and you know, he had one of the best highlights of the year when he dunked on I don't know his name, but
Watanabe.
Yeah, Watanabe. Yes, thank you. And you know, he was efficient too. He just took his game to another level that last month, and I think for the course of the year, obviously LaMelo was the much better player. He was more consistent the whole year, but he missed a lot. I think it was 20 games with that fractured hand, or 20?
Yeah, they were the 4th seed originally, and they went down all the way to the play-in.
Yeah, so I think LaMelo was far and away the lock, and I think that may have helped, honestly. The fact that the Hornets kind of tanked without him kind of showed his importance to that team, which is crazy. Rookies usually can't have that impact on a team so early, but you know, congrats to LaMelo. I think you could have gone either way with this award, honestly. I wouldn't have been mad if it went to Edwards, and I'm not mad that it went to LaMelo. I think this was one of the closer races we've had in years. So, well-deserved to LaMelo, but the NBA's in good hands for the future. This was a great draft class. Him, Halliburton, Edwards, doing well for the league.
Now, let me ask you guys this. 10 years down, or 5 years down the line, who would you rather have, Ball or Edwards?
If Edwards can do what he did this last month, if he continues that, I'm going Edwards, because Anthony Edwards was a different player that last month. The last month of this year, where Anthony Edwards was playing at the level he was, I would take that Anthony Edwards over LaMelo Ball for most of the year, because he was just on a different level this last month.
I would probably, I'm going to say I'd take LaMelo. I think he brings a little more of everything to the table he's only a rookie, but when he's like really on his game. And if we're like really getting into it, I think he's a bigger name, so maybe some players would want to play with him. So if I had to take him to my franchise, I think he'd attract some people. But it's a toss-up. You can't really – there's no definitive choice, I don't think.
Game-wise, LaMelo Ball takes the advantage because I think he's a much better playmaker. But I want to say Anthony Edwards is a much tenacious scorer than he is, without a doubt. Intangibles-wise, Edwards, I want to say he looks more of a leader out there. LaMelo is more like soft-spoken. He lets his game do the talking, whereas Edwards, he lets the emotion come out. And me personally, I've always been a guy who's high on emotions, who shows passion out there on the floor when he's with his teammates. So I would have to lean towards Edwards just because those intangibles, as well as his game. Yeah. So we also have some coaching news today. The Pelicans fired Stan Van Gundy just after one season with the Pelicans. What do you guys think about that? Me personally, I think he wasn't the right fit for them. As you can see, they were losing way too many close games, and that either the trait from talent, which they don't lack talent. They have 2 All-Stars on their team. And if you have 2 All-Stars on your team, you should be a playoff team no matter what, in my opinion. Or coaching, which I think it actually was. My biggest disappointment was with Stan Van Gundy. The way he handled how he handled the Lonzo Ball situation. Because Lonzo Ball, since he came to the Lakers, and I've watched him since UCLA, if you could just give him the keys and let him run the show, good things will happen. And I think he drifted away from that and went toward more Zion and Brandon Ingram, which isn't a wrong thing to do because they are both All-Stars. But if you want to get them easy buckets, easy baskets, Lonzo Ball is the perfect type of player who you want. He could spot up, who can push the ball, plays excellent perimeter defense. He's shown he's a leader. I think that's what brought the team down.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, they needed a coaching change. I think his firing is also kind of just because, like, when something's going wrong, the first step is usually to fire the coach and just restart, because they're not going to get rid of Zion. They're not going to get rid of Brandon Ingram. So I think that plays a part in it. I mean, I didn't watch too many Pelicans games this year, but they should be better. I mean, I don't know why. Something needs to change. So hopefully they bring someone in who kind of understands the young guys, because even though they're young, they're in win now mode. So next season, I would expect them to do better.
Yeah. They kind of remind me of the Suns from a few years ago when they drafted Aiden. I mean, it's a young team with a lot of talent. They should be winning games. I think if you bring in one more superstar, like a young guy who's hungry to make a name for himself, somebody who really wants to get in there, be the number one guy for sure, that takes that team to another level. But I think Brandon Ingram or Zion can be that guy. I mean, honestly, if those two play well and they get a coach that knows how to use those talents to the best of those abilities, I don't see why this can't be a playoff team. Obviously, Stan Van Gundy didn't know how to do that. And I think, honestly, most people had this team performing a lot better. Zion took a huge step this year, so it's a good team all around. And Lonzo Ball is a hot name on the market this year, or in coming years as well. So they've got talent all over that team, and I think they should be winning more. So there's a lot of names that are being thrown out right now, and we're about to get into one of them in a second. But there's a lot. I mean, Terry Stotts just got out of Portland. He could go there. There's talks obviously about. I mean, I don't know if Rick Carlisle would have head over there, but he might be on his way out of Dallas. And as we're going to talk up next, Scott Brooks is now going to be on his way. So lots of options for the Pelicans. And, you know, if they can get a good coach to kind of channel all that talent and use it properly, it could very well be competing for that playing game or a playoff seed.
Yeah, and let's go into the Scott Brooks situation. The Wizards and Scott Brooks couldn't come to an agreement on a contract extension, so both agreed to part ways. What do you guys think about that? Me personally, I think they passed expectations this season. But I'm not 100% sure what the common ground is that they didn't reach. But I think Scott Brooks, for what he had on his team, did exceptionally well. We brought in his former player and Russell Westbrook, and that paid dividends. I think that was a significant upgrade compared to John Wall. Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook looked like they enjoyed playing with each other. Rui Hachimura stepped his game up. Robin Lopez showed to be a great signing in the last offseason. Bertans was also another great signing after the season. I think if he would have stayed healthy, he didn't tear his knee up against the Sixers. Who knows how that series could have gone, because the Wizards had firepower to go with the Sixers, honestly. So who knows who the next coach is going to be. I think they're going to bring in someone to try and get them to the next level, unless they're in total rebuild mode, which I can possibly see with if they trade Bradley Beal and they try to find a way to trade Westbrook for assets.
Yeah, this is one that was like not really unexpected. I didn't at least expect like Scott Brooks to leave the Wizards. I mean, like you said, Jesse, they exceeded expectations. I didn't expect them to get into the playoffs, into the play-in, let alone the actual playoffs. I think Scott Brooks is a good coach. I mean, he's been with the Wizards for a while now. So, who knows what it could have been, the reasoning for his leaving. But I think he'll find a job fast. And I think, I don't actually think the Wizards are going to rebuild. Because I think it's hard to trade both Bradley Beal and Westbrook. They both have pretty bad contracts. So I would see them getting a experienced coach.
Yeah. I don't really have much to add, but I think you guys said it. They exceeded expectations this year. They got into the playoffs, and they did make some good signings. the development of some of these young guys, I think, is really promising for what the Wizards are trying to do. Obviously, they've still got a long way to go if they want to be competing in the playoffs. But great season by Bradley Beal, who made I believe he made an All NBA team. Right?
Yeah,
he did third team. So he was on the All NBA team. Westbrook, some people argued was a snub, but I think they got the best out of this season, and whoever they sign is going to look to capitalize on that, and maybe bring in some new signings, take that next step for that team. But I think they still got a lot of things to fix before they can get there.
Yeah, they have the young players in Hachimura. I forgot the other guy's name is, but he's I think he's a backup center. But if they can find those pieces to put around
Gafford,
yeah.
Yeah.
If they can find the pieces to put around Westbrook and Hachimura and Beal, then I think this team can be scary. It can be a dark horse team going into the playoffs next season. But speaking on all NBA teams, the teams were released yesterday, both first team and second team, third team, and defensive team. So we're gonna go to the all NBA first team. At guards, we got Steph Curry and Luka Doncic. The forwards, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard at the other forward, and the center, Nikola Jokic. Just based on that, are you guys happy with that, with those picks?
I think those are fair.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing at all.
Yeah.
I think they're good picks. I mean, obviously, I'm not complaining about Luka being in there. Shout out to my guy. But I saw one thing that people were talking about, and I guess there might be an argument for it. People were saying Kawhi didn't play enough games to be in there. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I think Kawhi had a great year. I think he was deserving of it. For the most part, I wouldn't really change anything. But do you think you could have put Embiid over Kawhi? I know Embiid missed a lot of games too, but I think regular season Embiid had to have had the better regular season, and he was probably second or third in MVP. So would you guys give that spot to Kawhi over Embiid?
No,
you wouldn't.
I mean, if we're doing that, then I would give it to LeBron
over
Leonard. Just because Embiid missed around 20 games, I want to say he missed a good significant amount of time, and LeBron as well. So, I'm not sure, but let's go to this.
Can you even put two centers on the same team? Isn't it always? Can you?
I mean, they have like three small forwards right now. Well,
they have Luka at the guard. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I would keep the first team.
I'm cool with the first team. So we're gonna go to the second team. So we got guard Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, Julius Randle, LeBron James, Joel Embiid. Anything that pops out to you guys?
Yeah, Randle. I don't know if Randle was second team good. I think that was a stretch for me. Second team, I don't know about that one.
You know who I'd put in the second team that didn't even make the whole, didn't even make the third team?
Tatum.
Jason Tatum, yeah. I don't know how he's not in anything. I mean, we'll get into the third team later, but he should at least be in the third team. And then if we're talking Julius Randle, I think he could easily be in the second team.
Yeah, I got Julius Randle. Second team, I'm cool with that pick because just like Scott Brooks and the Wizards, no one expected the Knicks to do this good, let alone Julius Randle, who had a history of not being the most efficient player out there. So he upped his game. He was in the MVP conversation. So I think it's rightly deserved. If he would have made first team, then I would have agreed with you without a doubt. Right. The second team, he got the Garden back rocking. He made it a playoff. He made it a playoff caliber team. We also made it a free agent destination. You got to put that into account. So I'm okay with that pick. Everywhere else, Chris Paul. I mean, you kind of have to put him there as well. Damian Lillard, you got to put him in there.
Damian Lillard needs to be there.
And so we're going with the third team. We got Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, and Rudy Gobert. 2 names stick out to me already right there. It's Jimmy Butler and Bradley Beal.
I like Bradley Beal there.
I like Bradley Beal as well. I like Bradley Beal.
I don't. I would, just because of how his team performed and where he was in playoffs, I wouldn't put him there. The 2 players who I would replace him with are Jason Tatum, and I would replace Jimmy Butler with him at the forward position. But I would also put Donovan Mitchell instead of Bradley Beal.
Because I would put, instead of Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker.
I don't know. Donovan Mitchell was the driving force of the Utah #1 team, whereas Chris Paul was that driving force of the Phoenix team.
But Donovan Mitchell did miss a good amount of games. I mean, a lot of people missed a lot of games that are in here, so I guess that doesn't really matter.
The season of injuries.
Yep.
Injuries played so much of a part in this. I think in a perfect world where their injuries weren't as big of a deal, these all NBA teams would look completely different. But it's tough. But I don't get Jimmy Butler. I really don't get Jimmy Butler in there. I think him over Tatum is a crime. I don't get that one. I'm okay with Bradley Beal too. Just based on stats alone, and they were able to squeeze into the playoffs, which I think is impressive enough because the Wizards had horrible expectations for this year. So I think you can definitely make the argument that Bradley Beal, at least towards the end of the year, with the help of Westbrook, obviously, getting them to the playoffs is somewhat impressive with the numbers he put up. I think he was second in scoring. It was only Curry, right? Yeah, Curry just took it from him in the last minute. So I'm honestly okay with him there. I just think there's just too many good players now in the NBA. Like the NBA is just getting too good. I feel like there's always going to be snubs, but Jimmy Butler is the one that sticks out for me. I don't think he belongs there. I think he got in because of reputation, name, which I don't like that one.
Yeah, I think there's just still on the bandwagon from last postseason. Mm-hmm. But yeah, well, that's gonna wrap up our show today. Thank you guys for joining in and watching us. We'll be back again on Friday. We'll be back again Friday, covering everything that happened today. Stay tuned. Same time at 12 o'clock. See you then.